The spaceship doors hissed open, revealing a sliver of a dark, unknown world. Zorpia, small and frail, huddled in her specialized chair, its mechanisms whirring softly, the only sound against the rushing wind. She looked up at the towering figures of her own kind, their faces cold and impassive. They spoke in clipped, guttural tones, words she couldn't quite grasp, but understood all too well. She was weak, a burden, no longer of use to the fleet. The leader, a towering figure with eyes like chips of ice, gestured dismissively. Two others approached Zorpia's chair. With harsh movements, they disconnected her life support systems, the rhythmic beeping fading into an ominous silence. Panic welled up inside her. She tried to speak, to plead, but her voice was weak, a mere whisper lost in the wind. The chair was then pushed. Zorpia felt the chair lurch forward, rolling towards the open doorway. The ship's lights blurred as she was thrust out into the inky blackness. A scream caught in her throat as she tumbled onto the rough, unforgiving ground. The impact sent jolts of pain through her already weakened body. Her chair, her lifeline, lay broken beside her. Above, the spaceship doors began to close, sealing her fate. She watched, helpless, as the ship ascended, its lights shrinking into distant stars. The sound of its engines faded, replaced by the strange, unsettling noises of this alien world. Darkness enveloped her. The air was cold and damp, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the ship. Fear gnawed at her, a chilling presence in the night. She was alone, abandoned, left to die on a planet she knew nothing about. The last flicker of hope within her began to fade, replaced by a profound sense of despair. The only sounds were her ragged breaths and the rustling of unseen creatures in the shadows. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face, and waited for the end. Alex wasn't looking for anything extraordinary that night. He was just trying to escape the silence of his small apartment. The city lights always seemed to mock him, shining brightly on lives that felt so much fuller than his own. He often wandered the outskirts of town, drawn to the quiet emptiness of the old industrial park. He kicked a loose stone down the cracked pavement, the sound echoing in the stillness. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and forgotten things. He sighed, stuffing his hands deeper into his pockets. Another night, another lonely walk. Suddenly, a faint sound broke the silence, a whimper, almost like a wounded animal. Alex froze, his heart pounding. He wasn't usually one for adventure, but something about the sound tugged at him. He cautiously moved towards the source, his eyes scanning the darkness. He rounded a corner and stopped dead in his tracks. There, bathed in the faint glow of a distant streetlight, was something he couldn't quite comprehend. A small figure, slumped beside a twisted metal contraption. It looked like a chair, but unlike anything he'd ever seen. As he got closer, he could see that it was a girl, though not like any girl he knew. Her skin was a pale lavender, her eyes large and luminous, and strange antennae sprouted from her forehead. She was clearly injured, her breathing shallow and ragged. Fear mixed with a surge of compassion. He had no idea who she was or where she came from, but she was hurt and alone. "Hey," he said softly, his voice trembling slightly. "Are you okay?" The girl flinched, her eyes widening in alarm. She tried to scramble away, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She let out another whimper, a sound that tore at Alex's heart. He knelt down slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "It's okay," he said, his voice gentle. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help." He reached out a hand, hesitant, unsure if she would recoil. But she didn't. Instead, her large eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other, two lonely souls finding each other in the darkness. Alex carefully helped Zorpia into his car, wrapping her in his old jacket. He drove slowly, trying to avoid bumps, back to his small apartment. He cleaned her wounds with gentle hands, using supplies from his first aid kit. Zorpia watched him, her large eyes filled with a mixture of fear and trust. Communication was a challenge. Zorpia spoke in a series of clicks and whistles that Alex couldn't understand. He tried simple words, pointing to objects and repeating their names. Water, he said, holding up a glass. Food. Slowly, painstakingly, they began to understand each other. Zorpia learned to mimic some of Alex's words, her alien accent giving them a strange, melodic quality. Alex, in turn, started to pick up some of her clicks and whistles, recognizing them as expressions of emotion. Days turned into weeks. Alex learned that Zorpia's chair was crucial for her movement. He tried his best to fix it, tinkering with the broken parts, but it was beyond his abilities. Instead, he carried her from room to room, showing her the world through his eyes. He showed her his books, his music, his favorite movies. He told her stories about Earth, about its history and its people. Zorpia, in turn, shared glimpses of her own world, a planet of vibrant colors and strange creatures. She described her people, their advanced technology, and their complex society, but never spoke of why they left her. They spent hours simply sitting together, watching the sunrise or the rain. Alex found himself talking to Zorpia about things he had never shared with anyone before. His hopes, his fears, his loneliness. Zorpia listened patiently, her presence a comforting balm to his wounded soul. As they learned to communicate, a deeper connection formed between them. It wasn't just about words. It was about understanding each other's hearts. Alex saw past Zorpia's alien appearance and recognized her kindness, her intelligence, and her courage. Zorpia saw past Alex's loneliness and recognized his compassion, his generosity, and his unwavering loyalty. An unlikely friendship blossomed in the darkness, a bond forged between two souls who had found solace and understanding in each other's company. They were different, yes, but they were also the same. Two lonely beings who had found a reason to smile again. Spring arrived, painting the world in vibrant colors. Alex, determined to show Zorpia the beauty of Earth, started taking her on outings. He'd carefully lift her into his car, making sure she was comfortable, and they'd drive to nearby parks and gardens. Zorpia had never seen anything like it. On her home planet, everything was sterile and controlled, designed for efficiency, not beauty. Here, flowers bloomed in a riot of colors, trees swayed in the breeze, and birds sang melodies that filled the air. He took her to the beach. The feel of the warm sand between her fingers, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the salty smell of the ocean. It was all new and wondrous to her. She laughed, a sound like tinkling bells, as the waves tickled her feet. Alex watched her, his heart swelling with happiness. He had never seen her so joyful. He realized that he wasn't just showing her the beauty of Earth. He was giving her a new life, a life filled with joy and wonder that she had never known before. He took her to see the stars. Away from the city lights, the night sky was a breathtaking tapestry of twinkling lights. He told her about constellations, about planets, about the vastness of the universe. She listened intently, her eyes shining with fascination. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Zorpia turned to Alex, her eyes filled with gratitude. She reached out and took his hand, her touch gentle and warm. He looked at her, and in that moment, he knew that his feelings for her had deepened into something more than friendship. He saw her not as an alien, but as a beautiful, intelligent, and kind soul. He loved her for her strength, her courage, and her unwavering spirit. He loved her for the way she saw the world, for the way she made him feel. She leaned closer, and he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. Their eyes met, and a silent, understanding passed between them. He leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, filled with tenderness and love. In that moment, they were no longer just friends. They were something more, something deeper. They were in love. Their happiness was short-lived. One morning, as Alex was making breakfast, a loud banging echoed through his apartment. He opened the door to find a group of soldiers standing there, their faces grim. Alex Miller, one of them asked, his voice stern, "We need you to step aside." Before Alex could react, they pushed past him, their eyes scanning the room. They spotted Zorpia, who was sitting by the window, watching the sunrise. The soldiers moved towards her, their weapons raised. "Stay back," Alex shouted, stepping in front of Zorpia. "She hasn't done anything wrong." "We know all about her," the soldier replied, his voice cold. "She's an alien, a potential threat to national security." "That's not true," Alex protested. "She's kind and gentle. She wouldn't hurt anyone." The soldiers ignored him. They carefully lifted Zorpia from her chair, despite her protests, and carried her out of the apartment. Alex tried to stop them, but they were too strong. They pushed him aside and forced him to watch as they took Zorpia away. He ran after them, shouting her name, but it was no use. They loaded her into a black van and sped away, leaving Alex standing alone in the street, his heart shattered. Days turned into weeks, and Alex tried everything he could to find Zorpia. He contacted lawyers, reporters, anyone who would listen to his story. But no one believed him. They dismissed him as a crazy man, obsessed with aliens. He eventually learned that Zorpia had been taken to a secret military base, a place where they studied alien technology and interrogated extraterrestrial beings. He knew that Zorpia was scared and alone, and he vowed to do everything in his power to get her back. He felt helpless, but he refused to give up hope. He knew that Zorpia needed him, and he wouldn't let her down. He had to find a way to save her, even if it meant risking everything. The thought of her being held captive, possibly experimented on, fueled his determination. He would not rest until she was safe and back in his arms. Inside the cold, sterile walls of the military base, Zorpia felt more alone than ever. The scientists and soldiers treated her like a specimen, poking and prodding, asking endless questions about her species and their technology. They didn't see her as a person, but as an object to be studied and dissected. At first, she refused to cooperate. She remained silent, refusing to answer their questions. But the memories of her abandonment kept flooding back, each one a painful reminder of her species' cruelty. She remembered the coldness in their eyes as they left her to die, the dismissive way they had discarded her. Bitterness began to fester within her. She had always been taught to be proud of her heritage, to respect her elders, to value the collective good. But now, she felt nothing but anger and resentment towards her own kind. They had betrayed her, abandoned her, and left her to face an unknown fate. The humans, despite their initial fear and suspicion, treated her with a certain level of respect. They provided her with food and shelter, even if it was within the confines of a prison. She began to compare them to her own species, and she couldn't help but notice the difference. The humans, despite their flaws, seemed to value compassion and kindness, qualities that were sorely lacking in her own people. One day, a high-ranking officer approached her. He spoke to her in a calm and respectful tone, explaining the situation. He told her that they were afraid of her species, that they believed they posed a threat to Earth. He asked for her help, not as a prisoner, but as an ally. He promised her that if she cooperated, they would ensure her safety and well-being. He also hinted that they might be able to help her find Alex. Zorpia hesitated. Helping the humans would mean betraying her own species, but the thought of being reunited with Alex, combined with her growing resentment towards her people, made her decision easier. She agreed to help them. She would use her knowledge of alien technology to assist them in defending Earth. She would show them the weaknesses of her species, the flaws in their defenses. And in doing so, she would finally get her revenge on those who had abandoned her. Her anger and bitterness had solidified into a resolve, a determination to make her former people pay for their betrayal. Zorpia knew that simply defending Earth wouldn't be enough. Her species, if left unchecked, would eventually return. The only way to ensure long-term safety was to strike at the heart of their civilization, to show them that Earth was not an easy target. She proposed a daring plan, to find her home planet and disable their fleet before they could launch another attack. The military officers were skeptical. The journey would be long and dangerous, and there was no guarantee of success. But Zorpia was adamant. She knew the location of her home planet, and she knew the weaknesses of their defenses. She also knew that Alex was still out there, searching for her. The thought of him being caught in another alien attack fueled her determination. She had to protect him, to protect the world that he had shown her, the world that she had come to love. She spent hours poring over maps and diagrams, sharing her knowledge of alien technology with the human scientists. She explained how to bypass their communication systems, how to disable their weapons, and how to navigate the treacherous pathways through space. The humans were amazed by her intelligence and her unwavering resolve. They saw her not just as an alien, but as a valuable ally, a partner in their fight for survival. They began to trust her implicitly, relying on her knowledge and her guidance. The alliance between Zorpia and the humans was an unlikely one, born out of desperation and a shared desire for peace. Zorpia, driven by her love for Alex and her newfound appreciation for Earth, was willing to betray her own species to protect her new home. The humans, in turn, were willing to risk everything to defend their planet from an alien invasion. The plan was set. They would build a spaceship equipped with the latest human technology and guided by Zorpia's knowledge of alien navigation. They would travel to her home planet, disable their fleet, and send a message that Earth was not to be trifled with. The journey would be perilous, but they were ready. They had formed an unlikely alliance, bound together by a common goal, to protect Earth and the people they loved. And Zorpia, driven by her love for Alex and her desire for revenge, was ready to lead the charge. The heart of the mission lay in the planning. Zorpia worked tirelessly with the human engineers and scientists, translating her knowledge of alien technology into actionable strategies. The humans were brilliant, but they were operating in the dark, trying to understand concepts that were completely foreign to them. Zorpia was their Rosetta Stone, decoding the mysteries of her species' advanced technology. She explained the intricate network of sensors that guarded her home planet, the subtle shifts in energy fields that could detect approaching ships, and the complex algorithms that controlled their defense systems. She showed them how to create a cloaking device that could render their ship invisible to alien sensors, how to jam their communication signals, and how to disable their weapons with a targeted energy pulse. She identified the weakest points in their defenses, the blind spots in their radar coverage, and the vulnerabilities in their energy shields. She even helped them design a virus that could infiltrate their computer systems and shut down their fleet from within. But the most challenging part was navigating the treacherous pathways through space. Zorpia explained that her home planet was located in a region of space that was riddled with asteroid fields, magnetic anomalies, and gravitational distortions. The slightest miscalculation could send their ship careening into oblivion. She helped them map out a safe route through this cosmic minefield, using her knowledge of alien navigation techniques. She taught them how to read the subtle signals of the universe, how to anticipate the unpredictable movements of celestial bodies, and how to adjust their course with pinpoint accuracy. As the planning progressed, Zorpia and the humans grew closer. They learned to trust each other, to respect each other's strengths, and to rely on each other's expertise. They were an unlikely team, but they were united by a common goal: to protect Earth and to bring peace to the galaxy. Zorpia, in particular, felt a sense of purpose that she had never experienced before. She was no longer just a prisoner, a specimen, or an alien. She was a leader, a strategist, and a savior. She was finally using her knowledge and her abilities to make a difference in the world. And she was determined to succeed, not just for Earth, but for Alex and for herself. This mission was more than just a plan, it was her redemption. Alex hadn't given up his search for Zorpia. He followed every lead, every rumor, clinging to the hope that she was still alive. He finally managed to track her to the secret military base, but getting close was impossible. The security was too tight. Then he heard whispers about a daring mission, a journey to an alien planet. He knew, instinctively, that it had to involve Zorpia. He found a sympathetic ear in a low-ranking officer, a man who believed Alex's story and admired his unwavering love for Zorpia. The officer told Alex about the mission, about Zorpia's role in planning it, and about the dangers that lay ahead. He warned Alex that the journey was incredibly risky, that there was a good chance they wouldn't return. But Alex didn't hesitate. He knew he had to be there to protect Zorpia, to be by her side. He couldn't let her face this danger alone. He pleaded with the officer, begging him to find a way to get him on the ship. The officer, moved by Alex's determination, agreed to help. He pulled some strings, bent some rules, and managed to get Alex assigned to the crew as a maintenance technician. It wasn't a glamorous role, but it was enough. It was his chance to be with Zorpia again. The day of the launch arrived. Alex, dressed in a simple uniform, stood on the launch pad, his heart pounding with excitement and apprehension. He saw Zorpia being escorted onto the ship, her face pale but resolute. He caught her eye for a fleeting moment, and he saw a flicker of recognition, a spark of hope. As the spaceship roared to life, Alex felt a surge of adrenaline. He was finally going to see Zorpia again, and he was going to help her save the world. He knew the journey would be long and difficult, but he was ready. He had faced loneliness, despair, and ridicule, but he had never lost hope. And now, he was finally on his way to the stars, driven by his love for Zorpia and his unwavering belief in their future together. He was going to bring her home, no matter what it took. He knew that somewhere out there, amongst the stars, their destiny awaited. The journey was long and fraught with peril. They navigated asteroid fields, dodged magnetic anomalies, and outsmarted alien patrols. Alex, despite his lack of formal training, proved to be a valuable member of the crew. His quick thinking and resourcefulness saved them from several close calls. Finally, they arrived at Zorpia's home planet. It was a sprawling metropolis of towering structures and gleaming technology, a testament to the advanced civilization that had abandoned her. The ship, cloaked in invisibility, slipped past the planetary defenses and landed in a deserted area. Zorpia led a small team to the Central Command Center, the heart of the alien fleet. They bypassed security systems, disabled cameras, and moved silently through the corridors, their every step guided by Zorpia's knowledge. When they reached the command center, they found it bustling with activity. Alien officers were barking orders, monitoring screens, and preparing for another attack on Earth. Zorpia stepped forward, her voice filled with a mixture of anger and sadness. "Attention," she announced, her voice amplified through the ship's communication system. "I am Zorpia, and I have returned to show you the error of your ways." The aliens turned to face her, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. They couldn't believe that she had survived, that she had returned to betray them. Zorpia proceeded to reveal the cruelty of her species, their callous disregard for life, their obsession with power and control. She showed them images of Earth, of its beauty and its diversity, of its people and their kindness. She told them about Alex, about his compassion and his unwavering love. She explained how he had shown her the true meaning of life, how he had taught her to value compassion and kindness. The humans, in turn, presented evidence of the aliens' past atrocities, their ruthless conquests, their brutal suppression of other species. They showed them the devastation they had caused, the suffering they had inflicted. The alien officers listened in stunned silence, their faces slowly turning from disbelief to shame. They had never seen their actions from the perspective of their victims. They had always believed that they were superior, that they were justified in their pursuit of power. But now, confronted with the evidence of their cruelty, they began to question their beliefs. Zorpia's words, combined with the humans' evidence, had shattered their illusions and forced them to confront the truth. Their reign of terror was about to end. Despite the aliens' initial shock and shame, some of the more radical officers refused to accept Zorpia's words. They saw her as a traitor, a disgrace to her species. They ordered their soldiers to attack, to silence her and the humans once and for all. A fierce battle erupted in the command center. The humans, armed with advanced weaponry and guided by Zorpia's knowledge of alien tactics, fought bravely. But they were outnumbered, and the aliens were relentless. Zorpia knew that they couldn't win a prolonged battle. The only way to ensure their survival was to disable the alien fleet to prevent them from launching another attack on Earth. She made a difficult choice. She would use her knowledge of alien technology to shut down their entire defense system, rendering them powerless. She worked quickly, hacking into the computer network, bypassing security protocols, and uploading the virus that she and the human scientists had designed. The system began to shut down, one by one, the lights flickering, the screens going dark, the weapons systems disengaging. The alien officers realized what she was doing, and they turned their fury on her. They lunged at her, their faces contorted with rage. Alex, seeing the danger, rushed to her defense. He fought bravely, but he was no match for the alien soldiers. Zorpia, seeing Alex in danger, unleashed a powerful energy blast, knocking the soldiers back. She knew that she had to finish what she had started. She ignored the pain, ignored the fear, and focused on her task. Finally, the last system shut down. The alien fleet was powerless. Zorpia had made her choice. She had chosen her new life, her new love, over her old species. She had betrayed her own people to protect the world that had given her a second chance. The battle was over. The humans had won, but the victory came at a cost. Many lives were lost, and the future of Zorpia's species was uncertain. But Zorpia knew that she had done the right thing. She had chosen love over hate, compassion over cruelty, and hope over despair. And she knew that, in the end, that was all that mattered. She looked at Alex, his face bruised and bloody, and smiled. She was home, with the fleet disabled. A tense silence settled over the command center. The remaining alien officers, defeated and demoralized, surrendered. The humans had won, but Zorpia knew that the victory was bittersweet. Disabling the fleet was not just a temporary setback. It was a death sentence for her species. Without their defenses, they would be vulnerable to attack from other alien civilizations. They would be defenseless against the harsh realities of space. Zorpia wrestled with the weight of her decision. She had saved Earth, but she had also condemned her own people. She had chosen love and compassion, but she had also brought about the end of her species. She confided in Alex, sharing her fears and her regrets. He listened patiently, holding her close, offering words of comfort and support. He reminded her of the cruelty of her species, of the suffering they had inflicted on others. He reminded her that she had done the right thing, that she had chosen peace over violence. He also reminded her that her species was not beyond redemption. He believed that, even without their fleet, they could find a way to survive, to rebuild their civilization, to learn from their mistakes. He urged her to have hope, to believe in the possibility of a better future. Zorpia took his words to heart. She realized that she couldn't change the past, but she could influence the future. She could use her knowledge and her abilities to help her species rebuild, to guide them towards a more peaceful and compassionate path. She addressed the remaining alien officers, speaking to them not as a traitor, but as a leader. She urged them to abandon their old ways, to embrace peace, to seek reconciliation with other civilizations. She offered her help, her guidance, her expertise. Some of the officers were skeptical, but others were willing to listen. They saw the sincerity in her eyes, the hope in her voice. They realized that she was not trying to destroy them, but to save them. A new chapter began for Zorpia's species, a chapter filled with uncertainty and challenges, but also with hope and possibility. They had lost their fleet, their power, and their pride, but they had also gained something more valuable, a chance to learn from their mistakes, to build a better future, and to find redemption. Zorpia, despite the difficult choice she had made, had given them that chance, and she would be there to guide them every step of the way. With the alien fleet rendered inoperable, the immediate threat to Earth was neutralized, but there were still lingering concerns. The humans, wary of future attacks, wanted to ensure that the fleet could never be reactivated. They proposed a complete and utter destruction of the alien vessels. Zorpia understood their fears, but she hesitated. Destroying the ships would mean destroying a valuable source of technology that could be used to help her species rebuild their civilization. It would also mean destroying a symbol of her people's past, a reminder of their mistakes. She proposed an alternative: to salvage the ships, to strip them of their weapons and defensive systems, and to use them for peaceful purposes. She envisioned a fleet of transport vessels, used for trade and exploration, for building bridges between different worlds. The humans were initially skeptical, but Zorpia convinced them that it was the right thing to do. She argued that destroying the ships would only perpetuate the cycle of violence, while salvaging them would offer a chance for a new beginning. With Zorpia's guidance, the humans began to dismantle the alien fleet, carefully extracting the valuable components and repurposing them for peaceful uses. They worked side by side with the alien engineers, sharing their knowledge and their expertise, building a new partnership based on trust and cooperation. The salvage technology was used to build schools, hospitals, and renewable energy plants on Zorpia's home planet. It was also used to develop new technologies that could help Earth solve its own problems, such as climate change and resource scarcity. The destruction of the alien fleet had ultimately led to a new era of peace and prosperity for both Earth and Zorpia's species. The threat to Earth was gone, and a new chapter of cooperation and understanding had begun. Zorpia and Alex watched as the first transport vessel, built from the salvaged remains of the alien fleet, took off from Zorpia's home planet, carrying a cargo of goods destined for Earth. They smiled, knowing that they had played a part in creating a better future for both their worlds. The humans, with Zorpia's help, had not only saved Earth, but had also helped to build a brighter future for the galaxy. The cycle of violence had been broken, replaced by a new era of peace, cooperation, and hope. And it all started with two lonely souls finding each other in the darkness. Zorpia and Alex finally returned to Earth, hailed as heroes. The world celebrated their courage and their compassion, their unwavering commitment to peace and understanding. The military base that had once held Zorpia captive was now a center for interspecies cooperation, a place where humans and aliens worked together to build a better future. Alex's small apartment was no longer a place of loneliness and silence. It was filled with laughter, with music, with the warmth of love and friendship. Zorpia's presence had transformed his life, filling it with purpose and meaning. They spent their days working to promote understanding between humans and aliens, sharing their story with the world, inspiring others to embrace peace and compassion. They traveled the globe, speaking at schools, at conferences, at community gatherings, spreading their message of hope and reconciliation. Zorpia, with the help of human engineers, finally had a new chair, one that was perfectly suited to her needs, one that allowed her to move freely and independently. She explored the world with Alex, visiting new places, meeting new people, experiencing new adventures. They watched the seasons change, the flowers bloom, the stars twinkle. They laughed, they cried, they loved. They had faced adversity, they had overcome obstacles, and they had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. They had saved the world, not just from an alien invasion, but from the darkness of hate and fear. They had shown that love and compassion could triumph over violence and cruelty, that hope could conquer despair. Years passed, and Zorpia and Alex grew old together, their love deepening with each passing day. They had built a life filled with purpose, with meaning, with joy. They had found solace in each other's company, strength in each other's love, and hope in each other's eyes. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Alex took Zorpia's hand in his. He looked at her, his eyes filled with love and gratitude. "We did it," he said softly. "We saved the world." Zorpia smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "We did," she replied, "and we found love." They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant colors. They knew that they had been through a lot, that they had faced many challenges, but they also knew that they had done something extraordinary, something that would change the world forever. And as they held each other close, they knew that they were finally home. They had found peace, they had found love, and they had found a new beginning. The two lonely souls had finally found each other, and their love had saved the world.